Is it ridiculous to think that Liverpool could somehow win the league title this season? Is it a foregone conclusion that Arsenal are going to retain the title? Will Chelsea step up? They only have one game per week. Will they be the ones to win? But let's look into Liverpool's chances of winning the title this season. Now, let's get this straight. The aim of any Liverpool team, right, being who we are, with the legacy that we have, with the history that we have, the aim should be to win every season, right? That's, whether or not we are capable of it, the aim should be to win. Should not be just to get top four. It should not be just to win a FA Cup or a League Cup. The aim should be to win the title. Now, obviously, you have to temper expectations based on player availability, the transfer window, as well as the relative strengths and weaknesses of the teams surrounding you are the likely teams that will also challenge for the league. Now, looking into this season, is it possible that Liverpool could win the title? Yes. Yes, I actually think it is possible. Will we win the title? Highly unlikely. Let's look into why. I think there's a lot to be said, or a lot has been said about Arsenal, winning the league, especially since, they're linked with Vinicius Jr., who, it remains to be seen if that deal will go through. And they're also linked with Bruno Guimaraes. Now, Bruno Guimaraes is a needle mover. I really think that Guimaraes will go into that midfield and, definitely improve their midfield. But we also have to look on the fact that Arsenal's attack is not necessarily the best. It's not. It's not necessarily best. They only scored 71 goals last season, right? We're not sure of the condition of Saka, or how available he will be, right? They've sold Trossard. I believe they bought Christian Zolis to replace Trossard. Kai Havertz also injury prone. And they have Gyökeres, who some people label him a flat track bully. I'm not gonna be disrespectful. He's a good footballer. A Premier League winning footballer. So I'm not gonna be disrespectful there. But if you go to their midfield is not necessarily the most creative, right? They are more defense first midfield. Eberichi Eze, they're one of their main threats there in midfield, hasn't exactly hit the ground running. You know, Madueke on the right wing there is not exactly the most prolific either. So when you look at their attack isn't necessarily the most potent attack there is. Saliba is out with a long-term injury. Now, even though they have Mosquera there, Mosquera is no Saliba, right? He's no Saliba. So, um, they still have Timber, right? They still have Timber, and Calafiori is still there. He's somewhat overrated to me, but again, he's a Premier League winner. Not gonna be disrespectful. And Miles Lewis Kelly did start playing in midfield and was looking a little bit better, but he can also play at backup left back. So when you look at that Arsenal team, it's not as though it's impossible to beat them. Last season, they were just simply the most consistent team, right? They didn't win the league by 90, 95 points. They were just very consistent, right? You look at Man City or close or the other rival, Man City under Mariska will be an unknown. Now, they have great players, right? They have great, great, great players. But this is a new manager, new system. Now, will he have the same impact that Pep had? Will he immediately go in and transform the team? I don't know. I think Mariska is a good coach. I think he'll have them playing a good brand of football, so to say. And they reinforced well. They do have a very solid midfield, very solid defense. Attacking wise, you could argue, other than Haaland, really, who do they really have that's prolific, right? Doku isn't exactly known to be prolific. They're selling Savinho. Semenyo is very good. That's good. But they really only have two out and out wingers, right? They only have two out and out wingers. They need a right back. Um, you know, yeah. So City is also unknown. You look at Chelsea. Chelsea is to me is the dark horse because they only have one game a week. But again, that also is an unknown because their centre back pairing their center backs are terrible. Let's be honest. Their center backs are terrible. They have a very solid midfield, attacking wise, not great, not bad, but not great, right? And they definitely need a keeper. So that moves us on now to oh, let me not leave out Villa. Villa could, they did sell Morgan Rogers. They would also have to invest. So that leads me to Liverpool now. Now, if you've seen my previous video where I talk about the transfers, that we definitely need. We definitely, like I said, we definitely need right back, center back. But looking at what we have, could we challenge for the title? Now, look, we have um, not the best defense, right? We definitely need defensive reinforcement. Now, I'm factoring in we get these defensive reinforcements. We solidify the midfield with a defensive midfielder. Looking at who we have McAllister, Gravenberch, Soboslai, right? Now, this midfield did in fact win the league the previous season, right? We did win the league with them. We have Ekitike, who, well, he probably won't be back until the back end of the season. But we have Isak, right? We have Isak. We have Gakpo. Now, Gakpo can be lukewarm. We have Rio, very exciting player. We have Victor Munoz, another very exciting player. And if we can somehow bring in Barcola, if we can get that deal over the line, get a defensive midfielder in, Liverpool has a good chance of winning the title. Now, again, I'm not saying that we'll definitely win. That's not what I'm saying at all. But do we have a shot? Yeah. 5%, 10%. You can name it whatever percentage you want. Might be a long shot. But if we recruit well, if we recruit properly, if we bring in the necessary players, I don't see where on paper all these other teams are miles ahead of Liverpool. Except maybe you could say Arsenal and Man City are, just a little bit ahead of everybody else. Chelsea, the thing with Chelsea is that, Chelsea with that one game per week really can get a foothold there. Just really depends on how they play. But Chelsea's problem has always been that they beat the big teams, and then when they play, Fulham, or when they play, West Ham has been relegated now. When they play, I don't know, Ipswich or something, they lose 2-1 or some weird result, right? Um, then again, my team did that last season. What a season that was. I contemplated doing a video on last season, but that's, yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it. But yeah, so Liverpool can win, but I don't think they will. I just think, based on what I'm seeing in the transfer, again, I just dropped a video on that. I don't think we've done enough. I think we're gonna leave ourselves short. But if we go all out, get Barcola, get the defensive mid, get the centre back, I don't think all these other teams are miles ahead of us. I think to win the league next season, you need to get 85 points. Now, do we have players? If we recruit well, do we have enough players to get 85 points? I think we do. I think we can get 85 points to win the Premier League. Will we? I don't know. But I think that's what it will take. I don't think it's going to be a 90-point season. Now, I could be proven wrong. Arsenal could suddenly turbocharge with Bruno Guimaraes. If they get Vinicius Jr., they could turbocharge and just march right to the league title. But how likely are they gonna get Vinicius? I don't know. And I'm just being honest here, and being realistic. I think while we can win, I don't think we will. I think we'll fall short, and I think top four is probably a more realistic thing to expect. Um, Based on who we have, I think top four will be more realistic. But listen, I'm all for us winning. You know, then again, I also have to factor in Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, that sort of thing. So I'm all for us winning, but I'm gonna temper my expectations there. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for the comments and the previous videos. Thanks for everybody who is tuning in. Liking the videos. Remember, guys, to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is gonna win the Premier League title? Do you think Arsenal are gonna do the two-peat? Do you think City are gonna um you know win the league again? Do you think Chelsea are gonna finally win the league? I think it's been 10 years since they've won the league. So Or can Man U? I forgot to talk about Man U. Manchester United could win it too. Who knows? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thanks for tuning in.